Now, exciting stuff. Here's what's going on. First of all, because of all of you, our channel, Teacher Talk with John, over the break has become a monetized channel. That is a big deal. And so you can look for some announcements coming shortly about how that's going to affect all of our channel members, all of our subs, and everything. Hey, thank you for coming in here from Georgia, fourth grade ELA. Title One Warzone. Man, did you ever speak the truth right there, Crystal Moore? I'm telling you, it is sometimes just like a war zone whenever we go to school. I don't exactly know why it's like that or how it ever got like that, but I know that it is that way today. And I appreciate you jumping in, and we're going to get started in just a little bit. Got a really interesting talk for us tonight, and hopefully it helps our viewers. We get a lot of good feedback, a lot of good positive feedback on our lives, and so we are super, 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 super excited that because of all of you, we've reached the needed view hours and the subscription number, which is 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours. If you look on our page, it's not quite up to 1,000 right there as it relates to the subs. It'll take a few days for that to get caught up, but we've reached it, and it's very interesting because this week I was able to. Hey, how are you doing today? Hope all's going well with you. And that's one of our new subscribers right there that pushed us over the 1,000 sub mark and pushed us over the 4,000 watch hour time frame. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Number one, we are here live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that may change depending upon how the watch habits of everybody changes because they don't stay the same. And we are currently putting out at least a couple of videos a week, which all of you have been tuning into, and I am so stoked. It never would have occurred to me that we would hear this week from teachers in the UK. We heard from teachers in the Netherlands. We heard from teachers in Switzerland. We heard from teachers in Sweden. I've heard from teachers all over the United States. And I am just taken back. And we're thankful and hopeful that our work is being a help to you. I want to remind you that Teacher Talk is hey, hello, how are you? Good to see you. I want to remind everybody that Teacher Talk is a free resource. We do have some paid resources. We're going to talk about those at some other time. But right there on the screen, if you're watching on the TV, you can get the URL or the QR code right there, and it'll take you to all of our free resources. Also, they're down in the description if you decide to go down there. They're there for you. They're free. They're 100% free, and they're always free. So feel free to jump down there and get those. And that was a lot of freeze that I just said right there. That's a bit weird on my part. Hey, Babe and Joe. Yep, I saw your name there. Believe it or not, I stream to YouTube through a streaming software, and it's really hard for me to see the names whenever they jump up. As our group grows, I think I'm going to have to get a moderator to kind of help me get through all that. So, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Appreciate y'all jumping in here. So, without repeating myself, because people will listen to this at some other point. Once again, we're live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, and again, that may be changing. Happy New Year to you as well. Is that the autistic academic? I can't see it. The Autism Academy Online. That's what it is. Man, I appreciate you jumping in here. Thank you so much. For 2026, I want you to understand the principle that changes everything for teachers. And when you understand the principle that changes everything for teachers and how to apply it, it'll not only change your life, it'll change your career, and it will determine whether your future self actually makes it in the profession of teaching. Because teaching is hard, it's always been hard, and it's always gonna be hard. So in this video, what I want to share with you is the exact principle that changed how I approach teaching, how I handle my responsibilities at school, and how I'm able to stay in education without losing my ever loving flipping mind and losing my own identity. And I didn't learn this principle until it was almost too late, because nearly 3 years ago I woke up and my face had gone paralyzed. I couldn't move my face. I couldn't blink my eye. And I thought I had a stroke. I went to the doctor. Fortunately, I did not have a stroke. But my doctor said this, and he said it very clearly to me. He said, John, he said, if you don't do something about your stress is going to do something about you. And what he meant is that eventually I was going to have a catastrophic health event. And you would think that that would be enough to get my attention, but it wasn't. The fact of the matter is, I kept working, I kept pushing, and without realizing it, I kept violating the principle that changes everything. And it almost cost me everything that I had, including my life. Now, here's what I think. I think that there are hundreds of thousands of teachers across the world who are in those very shoes right there. Their health is not very good. They're pushing as hard as they possibly can. They're violating the principle that changes everything. And I want to kind of talk to you and say, why does that keep happening? Because teachers aren't suddenly weaker than what we were, 30 years ago. We're not suddenly not resilient. Teaching didn't suddenly get hard. It's always been hard. It's always going to be hard. Teachers didn't suddenly lose the ability to bounce back. The reason why this keeps happening is because the constant pressure that we carry is invisible. And when it's invisible, it becomes unrelenting. It's the idea of, like, whenever you put a frog in boiling water, or you put it in regular, you put a frog in water and then you turn the heat on up underneath of it. Well, the frog doesn't notice it, and it just stays there and it stays there and it stays there. And then before long, the frog is completely boiled. That is exactly what is happening to teachers. We are under so much pressure. There's so many demands on top of us. There's so many people coming at us, whether it's students, whether it's the administration, whether it's a colleague, or whether it's the parents, or whether it's the district. It doesn't matter who it is, that it places us under this constant pressure. And what has happened is that pressure, it feels normal. The thing about that is that it's not normal, and it's doing some things to our nervous system which are not healthy. Now, about the invisible weights that teachers carry. Teachers carry responsibilities that are never intended to have been the responsibility of the teacher, and those responsibilities are not being limited, they're actually being extended. And when I think about the things that we carry, the number one thing that teachers carry that I think is most damaging is the emotional regulation of others. And what I mean is, we have so many students in our schools today that are completely dysregulated emotionally. And who does that fall back on? Does that fall back on the admin? Does that fall back on the district? Does that fall back on the parents? And who's expected to regulate these students? Is it not the teacher? When did it become the teacher's responsibility to regulate students or to be a mental health care professional? The second thing is that there's a lot of gaps in the system. I'm not sure about your district. I can only talk about mine, but we have like a hiring freeze. And the reason why is because districts all around America took a lot of COVID funds back whenever all that money was being given away. And now all of a sudden those funds have dried up and they can't make their payrolls. They can't pay their salaries. And so now there's not just faculty gaps, but there's also gaps as it relates to support for teachers and the ability for teachers to support students in an appropriate way. The number one gap that we've seen in our district is a lack of mental health care professionals. That we've made some stride on that in our district, but I can tell you that the mental health care problems among students is at such a high level that the mental health care professionals that we do have contracted, they can't keep up with it. And guidance counselors can't keep up with all that. It is unbelievable, the gap in the system as it relates to mental health care crisis among our youth. And who is that problem falling back on? It falls back on the teachers. Number three, we're the last line of defense. And, teachers have always been mandatory reporters. Um, but we have become the line of defense for the mental health problems, or the last line of defense for the mental health problems of students. For years in our district, I taught a program called Youth Mental Health First Aid. And the whole idea was to try to teach teachers how to triage and how to handle some of the mental health crises that our students are dealing with. That is an invisible weight that teachers around the world are carrying. And it's very, very difficult. And it's having its toll on teachers. Number three, rest will not fix this problem. And here's the reason why, is because relief is not the same thing as repair. Breaks, like what we've just been on, they are very helpful, but they don't heal the erosion that we experience over the last 10 months. I've been in communication with hundreds and hundreds of teachers through YouTube. Some of you right here that are in our live, I've been in connection with you, and you tell me that, hey, even though I'm off, like I'm not going to work, I can't get things to stop. I can't get focused enough to be able to rest in the way that I need to. And that's because the rest, although it helps the body, it doesn't necessarily help our mental and our nervous system. Summers are a good break, but what it takes in the summertime is it takes 6 weeks for the brain to come out of the fight or flight mode and go back into the rest and digest mode. And that's why we don't sleep very well. We have a lot of problems with being still and sitting in silent. We feel like we need to be up and going and doing something. And a lot of teachers take the entire summer, and I see them on TikTok all the time. They're in their rooms and they're setting up their room for the next day, for the next year. They're going ahead and getting their lesson plans done. And I realize why they do that, because they want to get ahead. But the fact of the matter is, we do that because we don't know how to stop. We don't know how to just let things come to an end and let our mind reset and let our brain heal and our nervous system heal and our body heal. And here's what I want you to hear. If you've been off these last 2 weeks, right, and you're struggling, because we're going back tomorrow, and I pointed out earlier in our live, we actually went to school on Friday, and I had no idea, so I didn't even show up. So I'm a little caught off guard that I didn't know that I was supposed to go to work on Friday, but I'm actually pretty excited about it because I've never missed work like that before. So I want you to know that if you're getting ready to go back on Monday, tomorrow, and you don't feel quite right, you don't feel quite ready, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. I want you to know you're okay. And I want you to know that you're not alone and that you're not broken. But I do want you to think ahead and think about how you're going to take care of yourself for the next couple of weeks. So again, Teacher Talk is a free resource, and right here with our QR codes, you can find all of our free resources. It's right there on our webpage. We do have some new exciting things that are going to come along this year, but I don't want to talk about them until I can make them show up. But for those of you that are concerned, there are some resources there. The number one resource that we give away is a resource called Teach Without Burnout, and it goes through our 5R process. It's a proprietary process that we developed here at Teacher Talk, and it's not because we're very smart or anything like that. It's just because we went through the whole burnout thing all by ourselves, and now we're like 3 years on the other side of it, and we're looking back at it, and we've learned a few lessons. So before we go any further, I want to give some people a few shout outs. Hey, Lisa, thanks for being in here. The Autism Academy Online, thanks for being here. Baby Joe, thanks for being here. Teacher Kelly, thank you for coming back tonight. There's all kinds of others out there. I see you up on the screen, so drop it in here. Crystal Moore, thank you for jumping in. So here's a thing that Crystal. Let me just put this up, and because this is pretty cool right here. This is a good idea. How many of you have? I wish we had a PD day. We're going straight back into teaching. Now I got to be honest with you. All right, Friday was a PD day. I had no clue that we were supposed to be at work. I didn't even show up. Monday is a PD and Tuesday is a PD for us. It's time to get grades in. So in that sense, we're extraordinarily fortunate. If you don't have a PD, drop it down there in the chat. Let us know and tell us how you're going to handle going straight back into the classroom. Again, there's a resource for you if you're on your TV or wherever, or you can go down the description box. They're down there. Also, I wanted to point out a resource for you. It's linked there. This is not mine. This is a book called Sacred Rest by Sandra Dalton Smith. I have read this and I go through it periodically. She talks about 7 different types of rest. It's an extraordinarily good resource, and I recommend it to you. It's down in the description box. It's linked there. It takes you over to Amazon. I think there's $6 or $7. It's a pretty cheap resource. Again, that's her book, not mine. So if you guys are interested in that, jump down there and get it. Let's see what we got going over here. All right, everybody's got in here that's going to get in here. We appreciate that. So if you need a simple way to interrupt the cycle, jump down there, get our 5-minute reset, or get our Teach Without Burnout, or our Reclaim Your Limits guide. They're all free. It's 100% free. It's always free, and you can take care of things that way. Now, we talked about the principle that changes everything. What is the principle that changes everything, and how can it change our life, and how can it change our approach to teaching? And the first thing that I want to say is that unidentified problems do not get fixed. Unidentified problems do not get fixed. And unfixed problems will wear you out. Now, the principle that changes everything is this: clarity is what keeps teachers in the game. Clarity. A lot of what we deal with in our profession, yes, there's a lot of external problems like we talked about. Emotional regulation, being a stopgap, having to do things that we were never trained to do or even know how to do. There's a lot of that, external issues. But the number one thing that we deal with are internal issues. And oftentimes we don't have good clarity on exactly what it is that we're struggling with. And so let's talk about clarity, confusion, and why teachers get worn out. So at Teacher Talk, we're a faith-forward organization. It's not because we want to be offensive. That's just who we are. So hang with us. Don't run off. Don't think that that we're going to try to shove something down your throat, because we're not. But our core verse at Teacher Talk is Proverbs chapter 4, verse number 23, that says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And I love the imagery in that proverb, and I love the admonition there. Of first importance, the most important thing that we can do as teachers and as people is to guard our heart. And that phrase, guard, means exactly what it says. Put something in front of your heart so that these external problems don't infiltrate you inwardly and then begin to affect your outward behavior. Now, as a moment of honesty, that is exactly what happened to me. Is I allowed all of these things that were going on around me, all the things that I didn't like, all the things that I was angry about, all the things that I was frustrated with, and I allowed those things to infiltrate me. And then all of a sudden, that's what began to flow out of me. So, yes, there are external problems, but there are internal problems. And here's what I would suggest to you: we don't have the ability to solve a lot of the external problems in education. It's my contention that we are completely at the will of legislators, of politicians who make up silly rules and silly mandates, and they place them on top of our back because they believe that it's going to make things better, and then it doesn't. And all of that stuff funnels down, whether it's from the federal government, the state government, and it funnels down all the way to who? Me and you. That's where it funnels down to, right? And there's not a single thing that we can do about it. We can advocate, we can go to our unions, we can try to talk to our legislators and all of those things. But there's nothing that we can do. But we can do something about the internal effect that it has. So clarity protects the heart, but confusion slowly erodes the heart. Clarity is not complaining. It's not quitting, and it's not blaming. That's not what we want to do in order to get clarity. However, at the same time, I see a lot of people who are non-educators, when they hear us talk about the issues that go on in education, many of them look at us as if we're just a bunch of crybabies. And I want you to know, I don't think that, because we're not. And one of the things that's always said to me all the time is, you know what, you teachers, you all get the summers off. You're getting Thanksgiving off, you get Christmas off, you get a spring break, you get all that time off, right? You guys don't have anything to complain about. And plus, there's all kinds of people out here that work hard jobs. And I would say that they're absolutely right. There are all kinds of people that work hard jobs, but most of those jobs don't entail the mental, emotional, and spiritual fatigue that a teacher has to undergo for 10 months out of the year. And those opportunities to rest, they are great, but they do not fix the problem, right? So when we talk about these things that we deal with, our purpose is not to complain. Our purpose is to bring clarity to the situation. And here's why. Because when you can label, or you can give a name to the things that are actually happening, then you have the ability to address them. I mean, anytime I sit with a student, one of the first things I want to know, if they're struggling, well, what are you struggling with? And, it takes a little bit of a conversation to draw it out of them. But finally, they say it. And once you say it, once you put a label on it, then you have the ability to deal with it. Clarity is also separating out what is yours to deal with and what is not yours to deal with. Now, I say this all the time. We love students. I love students, in particular middle school kids. I have no idea why, but I love middle school kids. We love students. But we are not the savior of students. We can't take on the emotional and mental baggage of every single student. Many of us try to do that, and we can't carry that. We can't handle that much baggage. And what happens whenever we have that much baggage? Well, we end up bringing it home. We end up bringing it into our personal life. It affects our relationships in other places. It affects our ability to function. Right? We can't do that. You have to separate out what is actually your responsibility, what you're responsible for, what you can actually accomplish versus what you can't. And that brings, when you do that, when you can name things, put a label on it, and when you can separate out responsibilities, that brings all the invisible pressure to light where you can see it. And that's exactly where it has to be. So we got a lot of things going on over here in the comments. Now I just want to jump over there because, golly, I feel like I need a moderator Hey, the Autism Academy Online, you're certainly welcome. Proverbs chapter 4 and verse number 23 has become a life verse for me. And I tell you, it's really been impactful because, it just shares with me the fact that as an individual, I did not take care of myself, and I did not take care of my inner man, my spiritual life, and as a result, things got away from me. So I appreciate that. So one for him. We can quit. Okay, as a matter of fact, but as a matter of fact, in one of the videos that I have up from our podcast from last week, I kind of mentioned that. I think that if we are in a toxic workplace, I don't think we have to quit teaching. But I think if we're in a toxic workplace, we can 100% leave that place. Go ahead, if that's you, if you're in a toxic workplace, here's what I want to challenge you to do. I want to challenge you. Go ahead and make your exit plan and start looking for someplace else to work. Be brave about it, right? Don't get all out of shape and go look for another job. All right, one for him. I'm going to sub and see if I can find a better fit. That's a good idea right there, man. That's a great idea. Crystal, only if you have an approved excuse, FMLA. Oh, to take off. Oh yeah, I see it right there. I see your response right there. You're 100% right. That's the way it is with our district too. Now, what? Well, wait a minute. He's talking about a leave of absence. In our district, we don't have to have FMLA, but we are, as teachers in Florida, we are allowed to take one year period leave of absence. And when you do that, your job or a job is guaranteed. All right. But we have many schools. So when you come back, you may not go to the same place you were before. They may send you off to another school in the district and force you to work over there. I would say that anxiety is an approved excuse, and I just wonder down in the chat, all of you that are listening out there, does your district provide any self care or mental health stuff through your insurance plans or through your district? If you have that, drop a one. If you don't, drop a two. I'm just kind of curious. Ours has some stuff, but it's pretty basic and pretty limited. But I'm finding out that the way our district works and the way things work in Florida is so much different than the way things work in other parts of America. For a lack of better words, I don't know how else to say that. So it's really hard to bring clarity. And the reason why clarity is so rare in teaching is because everything in our business feels like it has to get done right now. From the time that we walk into the classroom, in August, to the time that we are about to leave in June, teachers are literally on a time clock. We're working from day one all the way down to whenever our state mandated exams come out, whatever that is for your district and for your state. The clock is ticking. And there are so many standards and there's so much curriculum and there's so much stuff to get through that it makes us feel like everything is urgent. Everything is important, right? Expectations are also implied but not stated. The number one implied expectation is we are expected as teachers to work unpaid overtime. Nationally, teachers work 15 hours plus per week of unpaid overtime. And the reason why I say that's implied and not stated is because there's no principal or district that could come out and say, hey, you're going to have to work extra and we're not going to pay you. Rather, they know that the demands on the teacher are so much that they cannot get it done in the allotted contract hours. And so it's implied that if you want a good evaluation, then you're going to get these things done, and it doesn't really matter what it takes in order for you to do that. The third reason why clarity in teaching is very rare is because teachers care too much. Teachers care entirely too much. And what happens is that we absorb the emotional trauma that many of our students deal with. If you go over to our YouTube page, you can find right there a podcast that I did some time ago. It didn't gain any traction, and I did it, and it was about the secondary trauma that teachers deal with. It's the best podcast topic that I have ever done. It just didn't gain a lot of traction as it relates to viewers. If you're watching this and it's not live right now, or if you're just checking out the video later, it's you can see it right here in the card, and it'll also be linked down in the description for you to check that out. That is an extraordinarily important podcast. The fourth reason why clarity is often rare for teachers and in teaching is because silence is often rewarded. What districts and administrators want is they want teachers who go to work, keep their head down, and don't complain. Right? In all fairness to administrators, they don't always have the time to deal with some of the things that are extraordinarily important to us. And they're so focused on all these other things that the teacher begins to be the least important person on the campus, even though the teacher has the most impact on student learning gains and student outcomes. Silence is often rewarded. Now, a lack of clarity will wear you out. And here's the reason why, and we talked about some of them earlier, is problems will follow you home. They end up in your living room. They end up in your relationships. They end up in your car with your kids on the way home. They end up causing you to be sick, and that you have to be over at the doctor's office trying to figure out what in the world's wrong with you. And everything begins to feel personal. That is one of the things that I dealt with whenever I was in the terrible state of burnout, is I began to believe that like the whole world was against me. And I began to believe that the things that were happening, and some of them were, that these were personal attacks, and that they were intended to keep me down and to keep me from being able to promote. Because at the time I was trying to promote to principal, right? I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I'm still a teacher and I'm not an administrator. But I was trying to do like everybody else. I was trying to make my way through, and it felt personal. It felt like, well, we're just going to hold you down. And that's the mental position that we can find ourselves in. And so clarity doesn't remove responsibility. It puts boundaries around responsibility. And that's extraordinarily important. And here's something that I want you to see right here. This resource, I'll bring it up on the screen. You can go in the description box and you can get that. One of our best guides down there. It's free. It's 100% free, and it's always free. Is our Reclaim Your Limits guide. It'll help you set your personal and professional boundaries. It's just a little thing for you to work through. It doesn't take long to do that, but you can work through it multiple times, and hopefully that'll help you gain some clarity and be able to get through some of the things that we struggle with as it relates to setting boundaries. Confusion thrives in a state of urgency or a state of emergency. It's kind of like when, paramedics show up or the fire department shows up and there's a big thing going on. I mean, a lot of times we're onlookers and we see them maybe come up on a crash or something and they're walking around, they're not moving very fast. And there's a reason for that. And it's because they don't want to become confused. They don't want to become worked up and then make a mistake. Well, a lot of times we're in such a state of emergency that we're so worked up that we become confused. And guess what? We make mistakes. I've seen That happened over and over and over with teachers who were frustrated and who were running themselves ragged. They made a mistake and it cost them. Now, the principle that changes everything, clarity, clarity is what keeps teachers in the game. Now, I want to give you 5 really quick principles of how this principle works out. Number 1, clarity begins with placing a label on the real problem. The writer of Proverbs in Proverbs chapter 20, verse number 5 says this: the purpose of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out, which is exactly what we're trying to do right here in this conversation. We're trying to talk to people, whether it's through video or whether it's through these live streams, and our goal is to draw out insights, because the heart is like an ocean and it can hold an infinite, seemingly, amount of junk in it. But if you can draw it out and if you can put a label on it, then you can deal with it. It's kind of like being in a classroom and you got a kid there, they're kind of struggling and this and that and the other. What do you got to do? I mean, you got to do an assessment. You got to figure out what is keeping little Johnny from being able to grasp this concept. And once you can figure that out, you can address it. But until then, you're just shooting in the dark. And that's what a lot of teachers are doing. They're just shooting in the dark. It's going from one thing to the other, and it's oftentimes the wrong things, and it's driving them nuts. That's exactly what I did. Application number 2. Clarity separates endurance from faithfulness. The writer of the Proverbs, again, in chapter 19, verse number 2, desire without knowledge is not good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way? And here's what we're aiming at, is that we confuse oftentimes endurance for faithfulness. Faithfulness and endurance are not the same thing. Look at what the proverb says again: desire without knowledge. You can have all this desire, all this gumption, and all these things that you want to do, but if you don't have the knowledge in how to appropriately do those things, or do those things in such a way that you're not gonna damage yourself and your health, that's not good. And the Proverbs goes on to say, how much more will hasty feet, or those who just scurry about their way, or who go all in this direction, how much more will they miss the way? Endurance and faithfulness are not the same. And oftentimes faithfulness looks like foolishness, at least until you begin to see the fruit of faithfulness. Endurance and faithfulness are not the same. Endurance without clarity leads to erosion. It'll lead to the erosion of your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and your emotional health. It brings a crash. And so I just want to take just a second and remind you, again, we've got some free resources, and here's one for you right here. All right. It's the same place. It's the same QR code. Jump down in there, or you can go in the description box. And I want you to find the resource called a 5-minute reset. Now, it's true that 5 minutes is not going to cure a problem. All right. And that's not the intent at all. Rather, a 5-minute reset, the intent is to get you some habits that you can do every day, 3 or 4 times a day, whether it's a little bit of movement, or it's a breathing exercise, or it's a journaling exercise. There's 3 or 4 different things right there that you can do that helps clear your mind and tell your nervous system that everything's okay. It's down there for you. I want you to jump down there and grab it, either in the description box, or you can use the QR code right there, whichever one you desire. Thank you. Somebody jumped down there and got it right there. Just got the email. Appreciate that. Many teachers know they're tired, but they don't know where to draw the line. And that sounds 100% like me. Does that sound like you? Is that where you're at? Application number 3 is clarity brings unspoken expectations into the light. Proverbs 27:12 says, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and they pay the penalty. I absolutely love that. Have you ever heard any more common sense in your entire life? People who think about things, they see danger, so they do something about it. But the simple people or unwise people, they just go about their way and they pay the penalty. It's ironic to me that so much so that we talk about on here, of all the things that we struggle with as teachers, we see them, but we don't necessarily understand them because we don't take any action to take care of ourselves. Instead of taking refuge and putting things in place in our life to try to prevent those things from gaining a foothold in our life, right? We just go headlong into it and we pay the price. I don't know how many. There must be 2,000 comments that I've replied to this week that talk about how teaching is destroying their health or their mental health or their relationships or their ability to sleep, and on and on and on. Well, if we know those things, if we see the danger, then we should take some refuge and try to head that off. So one of the questions that came in here is Babe and Joe says, hey, faithfulness how? All right. I think that there's a lot of ways that we can talk about faithfulness. In the context of what I'm trying to say is we have a job. We have a contract, right? And we want to be faithful to our actual responsibilities. Okay? And what we don't want to do is to think, and when I use the word endurance, what I really mean is working ourselves to death. That's what I really mean. We don't have to work ourselves to death. You might think of it as kind of like the tortoise and the hare, right? The hare didn't win. He's never won. Thank you for that download right there. I appreciate that. I saw that. Thank you, Laney. It's always the turtle that wins. Why does the turtle win? Because he's just slow and steady. He's just faithful to a pace. And the hare jumps out and this, that, and the other, and he doesn't make it to the end. And that's what I mean by faithfulness. All right. Another step is to not mistake faithfulness for the mistake that we talked about up there earlier, where sometimes we begin to think that it's our responsibility to save every student, because we can't save every student. We can't take on the baggage of every student. What we can do is be faithful and do all that we can while we're there in the moment, but then we have to walk away, meet our responsibility. That's the best we can do That's the best we can do sometimes. Hey, thanks, Babe and Joe. Appreciate that. Appreciate the questions anytime. We're going to about get to the end, and I wanted to take some time and just sit here and talk if everybody has time. So when things are not labeled and said out loud, then those things have no limit as to how far they can go in our life. Application number 4 is clarity replaces guilt with discernment. Clarity replaces guilt with discernment. How many of you out there know that a lot of what we do as teachers is all based on guilt? We feel bad because we didn't do this, or because we didn't get this thing over here done. Or our administrators can very easily guilt us into taking, subbing a class, or taking up an extra duty because there's nobody that'll do it. And if nobody does it, then the kids are going to have to go without, that type of stuff. How many of us know that a large portion of what we do is based upon guilt. But listen to what the writer of the proverb says. He says differently. He says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Guilt will absorb every bit of your energy, your mental clarity, your emotional resilience, and most of all, your spiritual health. But discernment, discernment makes decisions. Discernment makes decisions based on what are my responsibilities? What am I able to handle right now? What will my calendar allow me to do? How will this affect my family? Or how will this affect my health? Do you see the difference? Guilt absorbs the problems of other people. Discernment decides what is best all the way around. There's the difference. Clarity replaces guilt with discernment. Application number 5 is clarity uses boundaries to protect what matters. This is my favorite proverb of all. Proverbs chapter 25 and 28. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. Now think about that. What does, in the ancient day, what does a wall do? Well, it keeps the enemies out and it keeps the people on the inside safe. But if the wall is broken down, then all of a sudden, bad things get in and good things get out. And he says that a person, like a city whose walls are broken through, is a person who lacks self-control. Boundaries are not intended to be restrictions on us. Boundaries are intended to protect us and to control ourselves. Because a person with no self-control, in the context that we're talking about, will take on all of these other tasks, all these other responsibilities, all these implied things. They'll take them off or they'll take them on. And you become like one who lacks self-control. Boundaries bring control into our lives. Boundaries do not reduce our ability to care for ourselves. They increase our ability to protect ourselves. Now, I'll hear it again. The principle that changes everything. Clarity is what keeps teachers in the game. If you want to stay in the game, teachers, you got to get clarity. Let me ask everybody a question here. What is the one thing you need to label in your life? Drop it down in the chat. Share with us. What is the one thing that you need to label that you're struggling with, you're dealing with, so it no longer wears you out? What is the thing that you need to get clarity on right here this evening? Babe and Joe, she says, yes, the district assessment, 100% complete by a certain date. Guilt, guilt, guilt. Absolutely, 100%. The Autism Academy Online. Again, I use the software and I can hardly see. Thank you for saying that. I absolutely agree. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Share with us out. What is one thing that you need to label and get clarity on so that it no longer wears you out going back into this time of coming off of a break? What is it? I think the biggest thing that I got to deal with is I struggle managing student regulation. Absolutely. I'm going to put that up there because everybody needs to see that. All right. So in the chat, tell us, teachers, what can we do to help us manage student regulation? Number one, so that it doesn't disrupt our class so much. And number two, so that it doesn't disrupt our personal life in the way that it does. Taking things personally. Listen to Crystal right here. Absolutely. That's what I was about to say about myself, is because I take a lot of things personal. In particular, whenever I feel like certain people don't carry their weight at work, if you can understand what I'm saying. I mean, it's just the way I feel about it. I get pretty upset about it. I get pretty mad about it, because a lot of those responsibilities end up falling back on me, and I don't like it. So just, a moment of clarity there. Wow, I'm GLC, but I'm not allowed to lead because others take over everything. I'm supposed that you're supposed to lead. I tell you, I don't know what the answer is right there, but Babe and Joe, I think I would. I think I would. I think I'd have a conversation with the bosses. And you know what I found? I found that good professional conversations go a long ways. And I can't say that that would be the case for everybody or every administrator, but in the instances where I've had to have serious conversations with administrators, I've had some pretty good results with those, and so I do encourage those. And hopefully, you have the type of administration that that'll sit and talk with you. I do, and so I'm very fortunate in that way. Anybody else before we close it down? It has been a great hour spending time with you. Again, I want to share with everybody. This is really cool, and you'll hear more about it because of you and because of all of you watching our videos and showing up for our lives. We were able over the break to hit the 1,000 sub mark and also the 4,000 watch hours. If you look on YouTube, it'll still say something like 900 and something like that. But we're gonna go over the top. Oh man, I tell you, this is a good one right here. I'm going to go to the Autism Academy right here online. What do you do when your supervisors aren't or just not listening? I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If you think it's toxic, if you think it's toxic, or if your environment is becoming toxic, I think you need to go ahead and strategize your exit plan. There's got to be 100 places, right? Well, maybe I'm overdoing that, but there's got to be more places that you can work, because from my experience, there's no line outside the door trying to get hired at schools. We can barely hire enough staff. As a matter of fact, we don't have enough staff. We were down 3 teachers. I think we're still down 2 teachers now at my school. And that's a big deal because my school is very small. It's not very big. So it's not like there's a line of people. The other thing that I would do is I would continue to have the conversations, as long as they're professional and it's not toxic. I would also, whatever your issue is, if you were able to collect data, I would collect data and I would show the data. That is exactly what I would do. So, for instance, if it's a behavior issue in a class, I would figure out a way. Um, yeah, yeah, I couldn't get it out. Did I get it out wrong? It's man, I've been awake too long. So, for instance, if you're having a behavior issue with kids and you've gone to your administration and they won't listen and you're doing everything you can, I would collect data and say, you know what, 17 times this kid interrupted my class in a 10-minute period, or yada, 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 on and on. One product that I would recommend to you, it's also a podcast that I did some time back. And if you look for it, I can't remember exactly the name, but the thumbnail will say something like, think less, teach better. And a friend of mine out in Utah created an app that is FERPA compliant that you can use in your classroom, and it summarizes your conversation at the end of the day. And it also tracks how many times you had to redirect students or how many times you gave praise to students, right? So it's an incredible app. You can get a free trial for it. I should have linked it up down here. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get affiliates or anything off that. It's just a person that I met, and I thought it was an incredible resource for teachers. And so we wanted to use our platform to make teachers aware of that. I think it's Think Better. Think. Let me look it up. Let me just get it up right here. I can tell you what it is. Got to get my cell phone up here. Um, it's really good for you to go watch. We in the middle of the podcast, we do a demonstration so you can see it. That is called "How AI is Helping Teachers Beat Burnout." So check that one out and check that resource out. In the description of that video is a link where you can get the free trial. Again, I don't get paid a penny. It's got nothing to do with making money or anything like that. I don't get paid a single cent. So I want you to think about the one thing that you need to label so it's no longer wearing you out. And I want you to address it this week. And I want you to watch this video right here. It'll help you set your boundaries. So stay strong and keep teaching. Oh, thank you, Autism Academy Online. I appreciate you. Oh, so Babe and Joe, it's not Class Dojo. It's not Class Dojo. Let me just look it up right quick, and I'll share it up here on the screen so everybody can see it. Let me just get it. So this is the actual this is her webpage right here. And there it is. You can go right there and you can see it right there. You can get the free thing right there. She's on TikTok. Her name is Dr. Anderson. And I think they just created a Socrate page. And if you go to those pages, you'll see my ugly face on there before I shaved and my beard was down to about right here. So you can get that on Apple or Google Play. You can hit the QR code right there. I'm going to leave that up for just a second in case people are watching on their TV where they can pull that out and they can check that out because this is really important. This is really a big deal. And I think that's like a caricature of her. There's a video. We won't watch that. Matter of fact, it may have me on it. I don't know. So that's the resource that I'm talking about. Again, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I don't get paid a penny. It's just that I thought that it was an important resource. And so I did the podcast with her and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And again, in the middle of it, there is a demonstration of it. All right, folks, I appreciate everybody coming out. I thank you so much for helping me get across the milestone of 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours. It is a big deal to us because we want to reach teachers around the world. We want to restore joy to the classroom, one teacher at a time. Y'all have a good night. See ya.